Hey, this is Bailey,
And I'm Timothy.
and welcome to What Sleep Podcast.
Let's get right into it.
So, if you guys didn't hear the news, we have our very own merch shop now.
What?
Yeah, so on Teespring, what's the link?
Teespring.com/stores/whatsleep.
Yeah, so we've got a bunch of new stuff, not just our t-shirts. We do still have our t-shirts, of course, but we've got a bunch of different colors you can choose from now. There's different designs now.
There's different fits, fabrics, styles.
We've got sweaters now. We've got hoodies, guys. It's getting cold outside. We've even got mugs, you guys.
I need to get me a mug, honestly.
I mean...
Also, we got face mask. We have face masks now because COVID.
So, I mean, really anything you guys would ever need, we got it on our store. So check us out. You'll really be supporting us.
Yeah, we really appreciate it.
So diving into our case today, I'm going to be telling you guys the, I don't even know how to describe this man.
Oh boy.
The super messed up story of Carl Tanzler and how he decided to live his life.
I've actually never heard of him, so I'm interested.
Well, you are in for a ride. And I apologize beforehand. I do want to say that this is a little bit of a messed up episode.
You know it's bad if you put a warning on it.
Yeah. It's so, I mean, if you guys aren't into like desecration of corpses and that sort of thing, this might not be the episode for you, but if you're in for a wild ride, then hop on this train because we're getting into it.
I don't know how to feel.
Oh, you won't have any better of an idea at the end of this episode, I promise you.
Oh,
nobody's going to know how to feel after this.
All right, well then.
All right, so George, I think it's George. He's a German man. George Carl Tanzler was born in February of 1877 in Dresden, Germany. He was born into a Jewish family and grew up in the imperialistic Germany. So this was pre-World War I.
Back when there's a Kaiser.
During his childhood, Carl, all throughout his childhood, he claimed this too, but he would still continue into his adult life claiming that he saw visions of his future.
Okay.
In his sleep, he would be visited by family members, just people who were showing him what was going to happen in his future, kind of how his adult life was going to go. So, not too weird, kids have imaginations or whatever, but it's kind of weird that he kind of carried that into his adult life.
So you mean to tell me that you had visions of your future and you still chose to do all this stuff?
Oh, yeah. No, he was...
disgusting.
Disgusting.
Both these.
He chose a way of life.
Yeah.
No one else should, or I think would ever choose for themselves, but he knew what he wanted and he did it, He...
Just because you want it doesn't mean you should.
Successfully, he did it. So
okay.
But there was one notable vision, of course, that really stuck in his brain. Like this was the vision that he carried on through his adult life.
Okay.
So in this vision, he claims that he was visited by a dead ancestor by the name of Countess Anna Constantia von Kossel.
Talk about a mouthful.
I don't actually know if this was a relative of his, but he claims that, it's one of his long dead ancestors. Okay. So
interesting.
She revealed the face of his true love.
Oh no. Okay. I don't like the way you said that.
Well, the woman that was revealed to him that he kind of latched on to from an early age and into adulthood was described only as a dark-haired exotic woman. Very generic.
Yeah.
So,
a little bit.
but you know, he saw her face
Define
in his
exotic.
vision. Literally anything.
Literally anything.
Exotic is different from your personal experiences, especially as far as this man goes.
Fair enough.
So,
Yeah. All right.
he was mostly able to avoid World War I by happening to be in just kind of less involved countries during the time of the war.
Just so happens, or
well, I mean, that's just how it
did it.
Oh, you think he started World War I and then
No,
avoided
I'm
it?
saying, like,
No.
I mean, he might have. Who knows?
No, he just happened to be in places that weren't as involved as others, and was able to just kind of avoid the war for the most part. While traveling from India to Australia during this time, Carl became very interested in like engineering and electrical work. So like he was kind of doing his own thing, you know, found a niche for himself. He also did actually become certified as a radiologist, and that's kind of where he found work, you know, just in his, you know, so normal stuff, you know. Much of what follows are the things that Carl claimed to have done or been through during his time before moving later on to Florida. So this was all the things that happened, quote unquote, by him, happened to him during the war. So here we go. He invested in property. He invested in boats, bought boats, and even he either invested in or bought an island in the Pacific. So that's just kind of what he was doing down there.
Yo, this dude is loaded. Hello?
So towards the end of his time in Australia, he spent like 10 years in Australia. That's when World War I broke out. And he was actually placed, this is by his claim, that he was placed into a concentration camp by the British military for quote unquote safekeeping. Like, how self-important do you think you are?
I mean, well, it's a possibility because I mean the Americans did that during World War II.
I don't know. There's no way to fact check this man.
I mean, he could just very easily just been like, yeah, this happened to me.
Yeah. Well, he claims that the British military specifically found him to put him in safekeeping.
Oh, specifically found him.
Yeah.
Like, you're not that important.
And he was placed, by his claim, alongside officers from like India and China who were also interred as prisoners of war.
Okay.
So after some time from that first concentration camp that he was placed in, he was transferred to Trial Bay, which is kind of like a castle-esque like prison that was on the coastal cliffside of New South Wales, Australia. So
sounds fun.
Kind of an upgraded prison sentence there.
Maybe. I don't know, it's Australia.
I guess.
Maybe they're
what's wrong with Australia?
I mean, they got giant spiders, bro.
That's fair.
I'm not about that.
Sorry, guys.
Listen. Y'all are cool. I like Australians. Your accents are pretty cool. But y'all's spiders and everything else, like nature-wise, I am not for.
It's spooky out there.
I'm still terrified of kangaroos.
Yeah, I mean, they're beefy.
They're so jacked.
I would not want to come face to face with a kangaroo. They're cool though.
I mean, yeah, they're cool. I like their little pouches for the babies, but don't flex at me. That's scary.
Another claim was that during his time at that second prison, he had secretly built a sailboat in an attempt to escape. And
this dude just knows everything. Hello?
He started going by the name of Count Carl von Kossel.
He really thinks highly of himself. Like, you're in prison, you're like, I'm Count.
No, you can't just call yourself a count. I'm pretty sure I looked that up, like how to become a count or a countess, and you have to like be like royally named a count or a countess. Yeah, like the title has to be given to you by royalty, like the queen.
Usually that happens, and like they usually do it because they give you a specific piece of land, I'm pretty sure.
Yeah.
And they're just like, you're the count of this land.
I also found links where you can buy land in other countries and make yourself a count or a countess, but I didn't do that because I'm broke.
We need to do that. Subscribe to our Patreon so we can become counts and countesses and own our own land in different countries.
That would be so
cool. We'll name it, I don't know.
Isle is Insomnia. It wouldn't be an island. I don't know.
We'll figure that out.
We'll figure that out later. So send us
subscribe to our Patreon and send us some recommendations.
Give us
for
some
names.
suggestions for island names for our podcast.
Oh man, could you imagine?
That would be amazing. So after his internment as a prisoner, there was a rule that no war prisoner was permitted to return to their former residence, apparently, and all of the prisoners, including him, were sent to Holland.
This dude has been across the entire world.
He's getting around. He's traveling.
Went from Germany to India to Australia to Florida, back to Australia.
No, he hasn't made it to Florida yet. This was all before he got to Florida.
Well, he makes it to Florida at some point.
Yeah, but he does travel.
Like,
he's a traveled man.
Goals. Minus the prison part, but,
right?
You know.
And the World War part, you know. That's I'd rather avoid that.
Semantics, you know, just whatever.
So when he was sent to Holland, he did return to his mother in Germany. Now, he hadn't heard from his mother for the entirety of the war because obviously there was a war going on and she lived in Germany. And he ended up meeting and marrying a woman while he was there. He was with his mom for about 3 years or so. So he met a woman, got married, you know, living the life. He's a radiologist. He survived the war, blah, blah, blah. He's a count now. So
I'm rich.
So he married a woman named Doris Schaefer, and the couple had 2 children. Unfortunately, one of them did die of diphtheria at the age of 10. So I did look that up because I also didn't know what diphtheria exactly was. But diphtheria is a disease caused by a bacterial infection. It begins as a sore throat or a fever and sometimes presents like gray or white patches in the throat. And the lymph nodes become like agitated, so they swell up, making it really hard to breathe. Oh. And it causes like a really painful cough. And in some cases, which I think is what happened to his daughter, it actually like blocked her airway, and she eventually just kind of suffocated. Which
sucks.
A really horrible death.
Yeah, that's no point of that one.
She died at the age of 10, but her sister, his other daughter, actually survived. Not survived, but she went on to live for nearly 80 years. So like she's good.
Yeah, she's good. She's healthy.
Yeah. In 1926, 3 years after returning to his mother in Germany and starting a family, his mom urged him to immigrate to the USA to live with his sister because, you know, land of possibilities, and his sister had already immigrated there. So she's like, just go live with your sister, you know, that'll be nice for you.
Seems like what a lot of people did.
Yeah. It was some time before his family did eventually join him, but he did move to Florida with his sister. He started the trek to the U.S. by moving to Havana, Cuba, and then went to settle in, Zephyr Hills, Florida.
Okay.
I think I said that right.
Yeah.
I kept trying to type that out while doing my notes, and it was really hard.
I'm sure it was like, did you mean zebra? Like,
no, I kept trying to type like Zephyrillus or something, but I think that's a disease. Is that Zephyrillus? I don't know. I think it's syphilis,
which is not spelled with a Z.
I don't know.
Did you mean Syphilis Hills?
Nope.
Hopefully not.
I wouldn't.
That would kind of suck.
So when he got there and moved in with his sister, he took a job as a radiology technician at the U.S. Marine Hospital in Key West, Florida, which is where he then moved. And of course, he had changed his name from Carl Tanzler to Carl von Kossel, which is how he was.
So pretentious.
That's what he changed his name to.
Not a fan.
He would, while he was there, go on to claim that he had medical knowledge and that he was a doctor, even though he's got no medical experience other than operating as a radiologist. And yeah, so he began to practice as a doctor.
No, what? Bro, you are the best at lying.
You could do it. I feel like it was so easy back then because there's no like background checks. There's no like, I'm gonna call your previous employer or whatever. You could just walk up and be like, hey, I'm certified as a doctor. You know, you wear the vest, you act like you belong there. You can do it. That's how it went.
That reminds me of like these videos of like people who are just like, yeah, you just wear like a
construction
vest and get like a helmet off Amazon.
And
you
a
can
clipboard.
literally just walk on to any construction site and no one will bother you as long as you have like a white hat on because they'll think you're important.
Yeah.
And then you can just do whatever you want.
It's insane.
Or as like this guy was like, yeah, as long as you just carry a ladder into places, they don't say nothing. And it's just like, oh yeah, well.
So you could kind of still do it these days, but it was definitely a lot easier to get in higher places back in the day.
Yeah, imagine going to see a doctor.
A doctor.
And he's just like, yeah, I've been practicing, surgery for 10 years. And it's like, oh, well, I accidentally cut your arm off. Like,
well.
Oh, no.
So in April of 1930, while working in the Marine Hospital, Carl met a woman named Maria Elena Helen Milagro de Hoyos. She was born in 1909. Elena was a local Cuban-American woman who had been brought to the Marine Hospital by her mother for an exam. Of course, Carl had decided this was the woman from his visions, this exotic, dark-haired woman from his visions, and was immediately infatuated with her. Okay. So guess what he did?
Murdered her.
We'll find out. So, so again, yeah, she was known locally to be very beautiful and very kind. I wrote in my notes, however, this is not an excuse to stalk the poor woman.
Oh my God.
So a little bit about Elena's family. Her family seemed to have a string of bad luck kind of around this time. After the events that we're going to talk about with Elena, one of her sisters actually died of tuberculosis, and her brother-in-law was electrocuted while trying to rescue a coworker in a construction accident. A lot of her family kind of like in our Vampires of Consumption episode, this is kind of the same case where a lot of her family contracted tuberculosis.
That sucks, man.
And died from it. There were a few surviving family members. Like one of her other sisters, Florinda, did actually survive tuberculosis and just, she was good. She didn't die.
That's pretty amazing that she survived TB.
Florinda, yeah.
I know that was not a common thing.
Yeah, well, I don't know if she was ever infected with it. So, because a lot of her family was dying from it, but I think she took measures to kind of like not get sick.
Like wearing a mask.
Social distance, you guys.
Wearing a wet sleep mask. Now available on teespring.com.
Solo. Elena had been married to a man named Louis who had actually left her after Elena had miscarried their first child.
Oh, that's messed
but
up.
they didn't get like a divorce or anything, so legally they were still married.
He just dipped.
He just bounced. So
okay.
Unfortunate. Wow. So like there was just a lot of really unlucky, just bad luck, bad situation, BS that went on in her family's life during this time. So back to the appointment. The reason for Elena's exam appointment were that she was symptomatic of tuberculosis. Clearly. As soon as she walked into the hospital, Carl laid eyes on her and immediately decided she was the woman from his dreams, his visions. Sorry, I had to get that out there. I wanted to give you a perspective on Carl. What was going on in his little man brain.
Oh my God. Like, of all things, the last thing I expected.
What, the voice or?
Yeah. Just like, I felt like I was being read 50 Shades of Grey just then.
I really had to get the moment that was going through his head, like kind of just describe it in the only way I think I could.
You could have done it like Mean Girls. I asked him what day it was. It's Wednesday. It was Wednesday.
So after that horrific rendition of describing what was going on through his brain, at this point, Carl was 53 years old and Elena was 21 years old.
Ew.
So Carl, of course, decided that he needed to be the one to perform the examination.
Oh, God. That's disgusting. I don't like where this is going.
I want to remind you that all of his medical history was fabricated and he's a liar. He is not a doctor. He's a radiologist. Regardless of that fact, he performed the exam on Elena and attempted to treat and cure her with a variety of different medicines that probably had nothing to do with any actual treatment. Well, he was able to convince Elena and her family to allow him to treat her in her home, as this would, quote unquote, be a more comfortable environment for her to rest in. Now, this wasn't an uncommon thing for it to turn into a house call thing because tuberculosis is incredibly contagious. Anyways. Yeah, that was just a thing back in the day.
This was 100% just a fishing attempt to find out where she lived.
Was messed
100%.
Up. Yeah. Though it wasn't uncommon, knowing what we know, it's super messed up. But
I don't like him.
So guess what our friend Carl von Kassel started doing. Took it upon himself to do.
Did he suddenly become a gynecologist?
No.
I'd like to like it.
He began to steal equipment and medicines from the hospital to treat her with.
Oh, okay.
He stole a whole x-ray machine and brought it to her home. What? Because reasons.
How do you just walk out with an x-ray machine? Because I know them things were not small back then.
I don't know.
I don't understand.
And he used a variety of quote unquote coined term by him, specially made toxins and elixirs, and he administered many medicines that are unknown. Of course, none of this helped her condition as she, needed to see a real doctor.
Yeah, I don't know, needed treatment.
But of course, Carl von Kassel was convinced that to win her, he had to save her and cure her of the deadliest disease at the time. As a non-doctor, he thought he could do this. He's like, this is a deadly disease, but we got this. How hard could it be?
Pretty hard, considering how long it took to actually do anything about it.
Yeah. Well,
just saying.
Not for Carl von Kassel.
I forgot he's a genius. I hate this guy so much.
Oh, that's not even the worst.
Oh, I'm sure.
That is not even the worst.
He already annoys me. It's fine.
It's amazing what this man has gotten away with. Carl not only tried to play doctor for her, but he began to shower her with affection, bringing her gifts such as jewelry, very expensive jewelry that, he paid for being a doctor. In clothing, and eventually at one point he did tell her that he loved her and that she was the woman of his dreams. Cute, right?
No.
Of course, Elena is incredibly ill, obviously.
That's cool, but
dying.
Can I get some medicine?
She was in no way interested by any account.
Oh, yeah, she's busy trying not to die.
I'm sure she was nice about it, ladies, don't be nice. Be safe. Do not encourage this behavior. And if this is
I just don't understand.
I don't understand either. People can be creepy. Men and women can both be very creepy, but this man took it to a whole new level. Obviously, Carl was fired from his position at the hospital as they had caught wind of him performing medical care that he was not qualified to do.
Oh,
as as stealing the medical supplies.
Now he's not qualified to do this in particular, but he can lie about being, I don't know, a doctor in general.
Yeah,
and get in.
I don't know if they found out he wasn't actually a doctor or if he was playing doctor in secret. You know what I mean? Because he was hired as a radiologist for the hospital.
I mean, I guess, so but
he could have just kind of been pretending behind the scenes and nobody really caught on until they did. You
also,
know what I mean?
I just realized something. Earlier on, when you said he was a radiologist, I don't know why. Reason why I brought up radios, I thought he was working on radios, and then it just clicked in my head. I was like, wait a minute, I'm stupid.
It's okay.
No, listen. Listen. Just, you've already made it this far, and I'm sure a lot of you were just like, this guy's an idiot. You're not wrong, but...
You got there eventually. It's okay, buddy.
It just took me half an hour into this. Oh my god.
Amazing.
You didn't catch me.
Nope.
You just let it happen.
I let it happen. I wasn't going to correct you. I wanted you to come to that conclusion yourself, which you did. So
Why do I feel so attacked?
You did this to yourself.
I know, but you let me do it to myself.
So, of course, he was also fired for stealing the medical supplies from the hospital. So, do you think that this stopped this man from continuing to treat Miss Elena here?
Sure didn't.
Of course not. Of course not. Because...
he's a radiologist who doesn't know anything about radios.
So, getting fired from the hospital actually gave him a lot more free time to go and see Elena and continue to treat her. So he didn't tell the family or Elena that he had been fired from the hospital, but...
So the hospital didn't say nothing?
Apparently not.
Oh my God.
Apparently not. Because he continued to treat her in her home.
I hate it.
So unfortunately, 3 months after arriving to the hospital for actual medical care, Elena did succumb to her illness and died at her parents' home in Key West on October 25th, 1931. Carl didn't take the opportunity to resign from dealing with the family, nor did he admit to not actually being a doctor at any point. Instead, he chose to appeal to the family by offering to pay for Elena's funeral. Because sure, fine.
I'm just baffled by this man.
Just wait.
Oh, God.
He also gained permission from the family to commission construction of an above-ground mausoleum, which, like, okay, like, it's not it's kind of weird. Like, it's kind of weird, but, like, you know, if somebody who has the ability to pay for this funeral and mausoleum, sure. Like, okay, that's...
I would have a lot of questions.
It's
Number
just
one,
weird.
Why? 2,
but
why?
You gotta think about it too. Like, the rest of the family was also dealing with tuberculosis and, you know,
I guess
illnesses, deaths, that all that combined. Just, you know,
he just wanted it so that way
he had the perfect recipe right here, right? Just handed right to him.
I mean, I know where this is gonna go, and I don't like it, but I know why he wanted an above ground mausoleum.
Well,
he just didn't want to dig.
He didn't want to dig. So again, the mausoleum was built in the Key West Cemetery. Of course, this was a strange thing and a strange request, as most bodies obviously were buried in the ground, but it's not uncommon that mausoleums were built for above ground burials. But he did convince them by telling them, and he was like, well, her body's going to get damaged from the rainwater that's going to seep into the ground. It's like, that's what happens when you die. You decompose. What do you think happens when you die?
I mean, you're not supposed to be preserved in there.
Right. Well, so
I don't like this.
He pretty much was just like, we can't let her become disfigured too soon, because, you know, she's beautiful and, like, she died, but there's no reason that we can't.
Again, why were they not immediately questioning this person?
I don't know.
This is like, that's just not something you say. Oh my God.
The mausoleum that he had commissioned to be built was super pretty. And I'll show you a picture of it. But there was, strangely, a lock that was placed on the door, which I don't know if that was common for mausoleums, but a lock was placed on the door, and guess who had the only key to this lock? Well, it's Carl von Kassel. He had the only key to the mausoleum of the body of the woman that was the love of his life.
Now, I'm pretty sure, like, locking a mausoleum is, like, common, because I know, like, a lot of people who have mausoleums usually have valuables in there with them. So to prevent people from, like, breaking in and, like, stealing. Oh, this guy.
So this is an image of Carl Tanzler, or Carl von Kassel as he calls himself. Yeah, he does remind me of, so I don't know if you've ever seen American Horror Story Asylum, but it was the guy that worked in the basement. Oh, it's the guy that works in the basement. I can't remember if he's like a mortician or if he was like a science. I can't remember anything from the episode, like specifics or anything, but he reminds me of that man.
He looks like any sort of like stereotypical doctor you would see in like any movie.
Yeah, he's got, the white hair, the white beard. He's bald.
He has the circular glasses.
The circular glasses and the mustache. Like, he just looks like a doctor, dude. But, knowing what he did.
Little did we know.
Like, look at this man. Ugh.
Like, just the look on his face holding the picture of her. He looks like
an old German dude is what he looks like.
Yeah.
And then here's a picture of Elena Hoyos before her death. So this is just, a picture of her.
She is pretty.
She's super pretty. She was a Cuban American. She had very dark hair, fair skin, just, kind of what you imagine a 1920s woman would look like.
Yeah.
1930s, super pretty.
I like the earrings.
Yeah. I wonder if he bought those for her. Alrighty. So back to it. Oh yeah, the picture of the mausoleum. All right, so then here's the picture of the mausoleum. So he did a really good job on it. I'll give him that.
Super fancy.
There's flowers out top. He's got hanging plants, wreaths all on the side.
Kind of looks like a hobbit house.
It does kind of look like a hobbit house. Like it's a pretty mausoleum. He did good, but I would wonder why the doctor of my daughter decided he wanted to go all this, to all these lengths to give her such a.
Why did they not ask questions?
I don't know. So, after the construction of the mausoleum was completed, Carl began to secretly visit Elena's body every single night for 2 solid years.
That's just disgusting.
And this was actually immediately after her death, but he had what was called a death mask made of her face, before it started to decay so that he could place it on her face and she would still look like how she looked before she died. So that was a thing.
I'm not a fan.
And
no. See, what he needs is a plague doctor mask because she had TB. Oh my God.
Strangely, he never contracted TB.
Well, I mean, he wasn't exactly cutting her open and, burning the heart.
So there is a picture that I'll post too of him holding the death mask, but like, look at how he's looking. It's just a mask of her face. Like,
it's weird.
It's her face, It's so creepy. I like, why is that a thing? So here's where things start to get really, really wild, as if it weren't wild enough. One other thing this man decided to do, unbeknownst to everyone, was that he installed a tank into her casket, which he would use to pump formaldehyde into her body to quote unquote keep her fresh.
Not how it works, but sure, bud.
During his visits,
he would know that if he was a doctor.
Right. Well, he wasn't. So. During these visits, obviously, he claimed that her ghost would come to visit him sometimes. When she did, he said that he would sit with her and he would serenade her with her favorite Spanish song. How romantic.
Despacito.
He was. So there was one night, however, that he claims she asked for him to take her from the mausoleum. And he did keep a journal throughout this whole love affair, by the way. Which can be found on Amazon, and it is called The Lost Diary of Count von Kossel. Ugh. Leading up to the fateful night...
Amazon. Why are you selling this?
Sponsor us. Anyway.
I mean, yeah, that'd be pretty cool.
Where was it? Oh, yeah. So leading up to the fateful night we're going to dive to in just a second, he writes, quote unquote, "I am so happy to be back with you, my darling. Very soon, the hour approaches where I will take you home with me." He obliged, of course, to her request to remove her from the mausoleum. And one night in April of 1933, he snuck into the cemetery and removed her body from the mausoleum, put her into a toy wagon, and just kind of pulled her through the cemetery to his home. In a toy wagon.
Listen. I know it was a different time back then, but come on. She's just carrying a body in a toy wagon. And nobody saw anything.
Well, it was the middle of the night, but still, like, come on.
You mean to tell me there's no one walking around the middle of Key West, Florida at night
Not in 1933, apparently.
Oh my God.
He was the original Florida man. One of the originals. There could be another. I don't know. But Florida, he paved the way. So, as he pulled her all the way to his home...
And this was before bath salts.
So, yeah, he did pull her in this wagon all the way to his home. And there is a fun note about his home is that he did actually have what he called Elena's aircraft. He planned to use this aircraft once he finished construction on it to take Elena's body into space and expose her to radiation in hopes of reanimating her.
Okay. That's all I got, dude. Like, what?
Unfortunately for Carl, Elena's body was at this point putrefying, which means
Ew.
everything
Ew.
was putrid
Ew.
and becoming slushy.
Ew.
And, decay. She's been dead for 2 years at this point, bro. So
yeah.
This wasn't a part of Carl's plan. So he had to fix this before taking her into space.
This was before space travel. 30 years before space travel. He's like, bro, I'm going to take this chick into space and she's going to come back to life.
I mean, it's plausible at the time, I guess.
No, it's not. Oh, anyways.
So he continued to treat her body with the formaldehyde and he bathed her body as well. He would put strong perfumes on her to cover up the smell. And I kind of feel like that was kind of one of those things where you have something really nasty like rotten trash and you try to spray Febreze on it. So now you've got a mix of...
But that's just like Febreze
with nasty. So it makes it gross.
It makes it bearable, but like at the same time...
I think it's worse.
Yeah, I was about to say, it's like, it makes it like bearable, but it makes it worse at the same time.
Maybe, I don't know.
It's weird. It's like, yeah, okay, I smell both of them and I don't like it, but...
You just gotta keep your stuff clean and also don't keep decaying bodies in your house.
I mean, don't tell me what to do. I'm kidding. I don't have bodies in my apartment.
So regardless of his efforts, none of his attempts stopped her from decaying, basically. And she began to literally fall apart.
I mean, it's what happens, yeah.
In an effort to keep her body in one piece, he began to kind of find ways around...
duct tape.
So he started stringing her bones together with piano wire because her arms were literally like falling off of her body at this point. Her muscles were decaying, so nothing was holding her together.
Why piano wire?
It's strong, I guess. I don't know.
But isn't it kind of like also sharp at the same time?
I mean, I guess he had an organ, so that might just have been something that he had laying around.
Yeah, I guess.
Yeah, this man, Count...
Yeah, just casually plays the organ,
Count
too.
Carl von Kossel also owned an organ.
How extraordinary.
So to stop her skin from slipping off, as it had begun to do, he replaced her skin with silk cloth that he had soaked in wax and something called plaster of Paris, which is literally just plaster that was used as a protective coating on buildings. So... I guess he was like, well, if it works for buildings, it should work for a body.
Yeah. Let's break down these walls with a sledgehammer.
So
same concept.
Right. And how he dealt with her organ decomposition is he started to fill her body cavity with like rags and stuff. And when her hair started to fall out, he took a wig that he had gotten from his mother and sewed it to her scalp.
Oh my God.
As if that wasn't enough, he replaced her now decomposed eyeballs with glass eyes. That's how this man was keeping his life together. His love. Piano wire, wax, and glass.
Aren't we all keeping our life together like that?
Oh, God. Ugh, I hate this guy. He began to dress her corpse in clothes that he bought for her, jewelry, gloves, dresses, and he started, buying her fancy perfumes. So
but was it Gucci?
Maybe. I don't know. This guy was excessive. It might have been Gucci.
He did play the organ.
He did play. So he was coming home all the time with like boxes of, and like these were, some of them were like gift boxes too, wrapped up for her. Dresses and perfumes and all this jewelry and stuff. Like, sure. Okay.
Sure, bud.
He began to sleep with her in his bed every single night. She was always by his side.
That's
and
so gross.
He would talk to her, he'd sing to her. He'd fall asleep with her next to him. No, that's a no from me, dog.
I mean, yeah.
It's so creepy.
Like, it's literally a decaying, falling apart, putrid corpse.
It's the love of his life, Timothy.
I don't care. That is not normal.
No, it wasn't.
No, it wasn't.
He also would play her music sometimes. So he would, prop her up in his living room or his organ room.
Normal people would just keep pictures by the bedside. Nah, he's got to keep the whole body. Oh my God.
So yeah, he would play music for her often, and he would sing to her. He would even dance with her corpse sometimes.
Could you imagine? Just like, I don't know why I picture like Corpse Bride when she's like sitting there falling apart. And it's just like the like jaw is like
kind of unhinged.
Unhinged and just like flopping around. And he's just sitting there like waltzing with her.
Yeah. Arm falls off, just reattached with some piano wire, man.
Nah.
So I want you to guess how long he was doing this for.
3 years?
No. Count Carl von Kossel decided to keep the love of his life in his home, strung together with piano wire, wax, silk cloths, stuffed with fabrics for 7 years. Slept next to her for 7 years. And this is 7 years after he had her in the mausoleum visiting her for 2 whole years. So at this point, she had been dead for 9 years. And this man...
I need a drink. Oh my God.
7 years. Are you like...
Does anything even remain of the body at that point? I feel like you had to do so much maintenance on it.
So much of her body was replaced with other things. Glass eyeballs, piano wire, a wig, silk for skin,
Just get a fleshlight.
Well.
No. All right, hold on. I actually need a drink now.
Intermission, drink time.
Oh my God. No, this is not how it's supposed to go. I don't care. No, absolutely not.
Guys, I broke Timmy.
Nope, not having it.
This is a wild case.
It's gross.
It is very gross. And we're back. We've got water for hydration, and we're ready for the rest of this story.
Nope, I'm not ready, but sure.
Well, people obviously began to think that Carl was acting very strange.
You think?
Because they did notice all the presents and all the gifts and the dresses and the perfumes that he was bringing home, but they never saw a woman. There was one night a kid in the neighborhood had actually witnessed through Carl's open window that he was dancing with a full-sized doll. Thought that was strange. It was a little weird.
Yeah. Just a little.
And so the rumors obviously began around the neighborhood, around the town, and Elena's family caught wind of it. So they started putting 2 and 2 together. They were like, well, it's kind of weird, this weird doctor man who built this really fancy mausoleum and visited it for 2 years, like just kind of stopped visiting the mausoleum. And now we're hearing all these weird rumors of him in his house dancing with a full-size doll.
So now they're asking questions they should have been asking.
9 years later.
Oh my God.
Elena's surviving sister, Florinda, she kind of decided to visit Carl in October of 1940. One thing to note is that she also, so this is kind of infuriating. The family, including Florinda, did know that he was the only one that had a key to the mausoleum. So when she went to go and visit, she kind of she confronted him with this, and she demanded that he go in and lock the mausoleum for her because she wanted to make sure that her sister was, still there and safe or whatever. Carl said no. He said, well, I mean, if you want to see her, she's right upstairs. You can come in and see her if you want. She's right upstairs. She's on the bed sleeping. She's up there. And so Florinda...
That's not the right response.
He had no qualms with this. He's like, oh, no. Just come upstairs. She's right upstairs. That's fine. So obviously Florinda was like, all right, okay. So she followed him upstairs to his bedroom where Elena's doll body / corpse was laying in bed in a wedding dress.
I'm just in awe at this case.
This is a real thing that happened, guys.
Yeah, that's all I got.
So at first, Florinda was in denial because what was laying on the bed looked like a doll. She straight up was like, Carl, this is a doll. It looks like my sister, but this is a doll, and I need you to take me to my sister. And he's like, no, she's right there. That's Elena. And she was so over it at this point. She's like, all right, well, I'm calling the police, and I'm gonna make you take me to I'm gonna make you go to the mausoleum with all of us. We're gonna go in and see my sister. He's like, she's right here. Hello. And so the police arrived.
See, I think the thing that baffles me the most is he acts like this is a totally normal response. She's right here. What? Whoa, what do you mean? Oh,
obviously it's a normal response. So police arrived and they investigated and very quickly came to the conclusion that this was indeed the corpse, or a corpse, and by a process of elimination was the corpse of Elena. And Carl was arrested. So
good.
Autopsy and investigation on Elena's body discovered everything that Carl had done to her corpse. And here's a very quick warning for the queasy and anybody that doesn't want to hear anything about necrophilia. That's what's coming. So skip ahead maybe like 15 seconds. It was discovered that Carl had fitted her vagina with a tube, and you can come to your own conclusions as to why that happened. So if you skipped ahead, welcome back. Timothy is checked out, so we're going to continue. Do you have any comments, Timothy?
No. That's it. Yeah, anyways, let's just
7 years, man. All right.
Technically
9. All right. So obviously after this autopsy, the doctors were like, we're gonna give you a psychiatric exam so that we can put you on trial for this horrific thing you've done. And he was like, all right, okay.
What a chill dude.
And guess what happened?
He pleaded insanity.
No, he was found to be mentally competent and stood trial. And he stood trial only for the charges of wantonly and maliciously destroying a grave and removing a body without authorization. He was never charged with anything else. He wasn't charged for medical malpractice, desecration of a corpse, kidnapping, literally nothing. Never again.
Anyways, yeah, okay. Sure.
So the end of the case came when all charges were dropped on his case because the statute of limitations for all crimes had expired. So that happened. It was also probably influenced by the fact that media and the public opinion were, of course, absolutely wild. So here's what everyone else had to say.
I swear to God, if these people try to defend him.
Oh, hold on. Many people found his actions romantic.
No.
And they didn't.
This is not how it works. This is not. What's Warm Bodies? This is not that movie Warm Bodies. It's not a zombie apocalypse where getting a zombie to fall in love with a girl brings them back to life. This is not how it works. Well, remember,
he was going to send her into space to bring her back to life with his rocket ship.
Yeah. Okay, sure. The rocket ship that has yet to be invented. They just invented planes like 15 years ago.
So a lot of the public and the media didn't blame him for what he did, and they kind of treated it as a love story.
No. Nope.
So, yeah, that happened. Of course, Carl wasn't done. after the trial and after everything kind of settled down, he asked for her body back. He quote unquote said, "Can I have the body of my wife back now?" Yeah. That happened. This really happened, you guys. This dude existed.
He's brave.
This dude existed. And he got away with everything. So after all was said and done, he was denied access back to her body, obviously.
Oh, one good thing out of this.
One good thing. This woman can now rest. But not before her body was placed on public display at the Dean Lopez funeral home to be viewed by thousands of people. It was something like 6,800 people went to visit her body because it was so popular. Her remains were, very sadly, later buried in an unmarked grave somewhere in the Key West cemetery to prevent further tampering of her body, because they were afraid that Carl obviously would go back, get her body, and then continue his work. So they had to bury her unmarked.
That's so sad.
It's incredibly sad. So.
Wow. That's all I got. Just wow.
Later, there was an incident where a bomb was detonated at her mausoleum, but it's unknown who set the bomb off. If it was Carl, if it was somebody from the public, if it was her family. They don't really know what happened with that. So her mausoleum was destroyed. In 1944, Carl moved to Pasco County, Florida, which wasn't very far from Zephyr Hills. And he wrote an autobiography that appeared in a magazine called Fantastic Adventures by Pulp.
Shut up. Shut the up. No. Fantastic Adventures?
That's the magazine name. And it was published by Pulp Publications in 1947.
What? This is not real life, bro. Are you kidding me? This dude got away with all of that. Writes an autobiography about how much of a sick bastard he is.
Yep.
And then some magazine, what is it called? Fantastic Adventures. Something you think Lord of the Rings would be in. Is just like, oh yeah, this autobiography sounds cool.
I mean, it's wild. It really
sounds
is
like
wild.
A fantastic adventure.
His new home was near his wife, who he was still married to, Doris. Because remember...
Oh yeah, I forgot about her. No way. Yo.
Yeah, because remember, he still had a wife and a daughter who both lived on to...
Bro, could you imagine being
old.
The daughter and then finding out your dad did all of that?
I don't know about the daughter, but Doris, again, who he was still married to, supported him all throughout his life, all throughout the trial, until his death.
No.
She was totally cool with it. She's like, it's fine.
No.
I got you.
Absolutely not.
Till death do we part, for better or for worse, you know. They really
apparently for him, death does not separate you. Oh my God, dude.
In 1952, at 83 years old, Carl's body was found dead in his home. It had been dead for about 3 weeks at this point. He was laying next to a full-sized doll that was wearing Elena's death mask. His last journal entry read, "Human jealousy has robbed me of the body of my Elena. Yet divine happiness is flowing through me, for she has survived death. Forever and ever she is with me." And that's the end of our episode for Count. I'm sorry, we're not going to call him that. Carl Tanzler.
No. No.
I really apologize for putting you guys through that, but I couldn't leave that unsaid. None of that. I had to give you that story.
It's not very often that I'm speechless.
I know.
Wow.
I'm proud of this one.
I like that subtle jab you just threw at me.
What?
You act like I talk a lot.
No, it's speechless because you're in shock. You're not shocked normally.
I was like, oh, you know, it's not very often that I'm speechless. You're like, I know.
Yeah, I know, because you're not very often shocked by stuff. I wasn't saying you talk a lot. I'm saying... So, what'd you think about that one? I want to know what you guys think. I don't think he has thoughts for this.
I don't. I can't.
Oh, you remember at the beginning of the episode where you're like, I don't even know what to think about this man. You don't. Nobody does. This guy.
And I stick by that statement.
This guy is wild.
Oh my god.
That happened.
Well.
And that's gonna keep me up at night.
Yeah. I mean, same, dude. Wow.
So if you liked that episode, you can go ahead and follow us on our social medias for any updates, or please tell me what you thought, because I don't know what to think about this. You can find our Facebook and our Instagram at What Sleep Podcast. Our Twitter is at What Sleep Pod. And you can find all the places you can listen to our podcast on our website at whatsleeppodcast.buzzsprout.com. And don't forget to go and check out our new Teespring merchandise. We got a bunch of new stuff. So
teespring.com/store/whatsleep.
Yeah. And we would really greatly appreciate it if you guys wanted to support us on Patreon. We're still trying to get that mic. I know the quality's not been great, but we're working on it. We would appreciate that a lot. So we will see you guys in next week's episode.
Oh, man, dude.
He still can't talk.
I'm still messed up over this case.
Bye.